and welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and today I'm going to be talking about why I may not read Sarah J. Maas's new book. First of all, if you've been here before, you'll know that usually this bookshelf is full as well, but I am actually in the middle of moving, so I'm half-packed, halfway organized. I hope that you're all managing to keep safe and healthy during this time, and that all of the quarantine is providing you with more opportunities to watch this channel. Shameless self-promotion. This is probably the last time you're going to see this setup before I move, although I have no idea what my new setup will look like, so potentially I'll be in front of these same bookshelves again since they're going with me. But yes, I'm very excited and also a little stressed. You know, the world has shut down for most people, but I still have my thesis to work on. I'm still working, although I've been at home a few days because of cold symptoms. I'm in the middle of job interviews as well for a new position when I graduate. And also I am obviously moving, so there is a ton going on in this time when most people are slowing down. So I do feel quite stressed, but that's besides the point. So let's get into the video. So a lot of you have been asking me if I'm going to read Sarah J. Maas's new book, Crescent City or House of Blood and something. I cannot remember and I don't have it in front of me. I was confused because I thought that the book was called Crescent City, but I think that's the series name. Anyway, because I've had so many videos about Sarah J. Maas and a lot of my songs are inspired by her books, people often think that she's kind of my favorite author and that I will be reading her new book. First, I'd like to say I do like her work. Secondly, this is all my opinion, so like if I don't end up reading it, I'm not trying to say that I think she's a bad author or anything. This is all just personal preference. So that's kind of the main thing that I want to talk about is personal preference. When I first started reading Sarah J. Maas, I was very into the Throne of Glass series because it kind of had everything that I look for in a book, which for fantasy is typically a female-led, expansive, well-developed world. So what I loved most was kind of its epic scale and how it very much felt like a reimagining of the classics like Lord of the Rings for a young female audience. I thought her world building was spectacular, the characters were really interesting and fun, and I very much fell in love with that series. As the series developed, I started to fall a little bit out of love with it, and that is not to say that I think it was bad. I think that there were some issues with maybe editing and pacing we could talk about, but my main issue was just that it became less what I look for in a book, which is to say it became more heavily romance focused and really delved into the whole fae world. This is where personal preference comes into play because I certainly don't think that either of those genres are bad or that they shouldn't be in, you know, epic fantasy or whatever. It's just that personally that's not really what I gravitate towards. In general, I'm not very interested in fae mythology, and romance I enjoy, but I like it as kind of a secondary plot rather than the main one. This is the reason that I did not like the ACOTAR series as much as Throne of Glass, because that is obviously fae focused and romance focused. I enjoyed the first book as kind of a standalone adventure story and Beauty and the Beast retelling, but admittedly, as the series progressed, I found myself getting quite bored and just didn't enjoy it as much. I still, you know, it was a fun read for me, but I definitely would not say that ACOTAR is in any way one of my favorite series. So all that to say, with Sarah J. Maas's new series, I was kind of trying to decide what I would do if I would read it, and sort of looked into what it's about, because if she returned to the kind of early Throne of Glass style, I could really enjoy it, but if it was more of her later works, it just wouldn't really be for me, I think. And again, that's not to say that it's bad, it's just as she's developed as an author and really built her brand, I've come to see or find that it's not really a brand that particularly appeals to me. So I wasn't sure if I would read her new book or not, but I watched a couple of reviews, particularly one by Jenna Claire, I think is her name, and she said that it was a great book, and one of the reasons she liked it was because it was very much Sarah's brand. So smutty, fae, romance, that kind of a vibe. And as I said, that's just not a vibe that particularly appeals to me. Again, I don't know how many times I can say this, but I just want to reiterate, like, I'm not saying that these are bad things, that they shouldn't be in books. I think it's misogynistic to say that romance is bad or that sex in books is bad or any of those kind of things. It's just personally, like, that's not what I read books for, and I find myself disinterested if a plot is purely based on the relationship and chemistry between two characters, especially if I don't like those characters. So for example, in ACOTAR, I did not enjoy Feyre as a protagonist, and since the entire plot is centered on her relationship with Rhysand, I just found myself disinterested and not really caring. One reason I was interested in the Crescent City series was because it is a modern fantasy world. So still, I think, second world, but with modern technology. And as someone that loves contemporary and urban fantasy, I thought that that would be really great. It was really appealing to me and I was kind of excited for it. But then after reading the blurb and also hearing people talk about it, I realized it is a lot more of the same, like heavily romance focused and with fae mythology. Now, fae in a modern setting could be very different. Maybe I would enjoy that, I'm not sure. But just in general, just a personal thing, fairies and fae don't really appeal to me. I can't even tell you why that is. It just doesn't do it for me. And I think maybe it's because the themes it usually inspires are to do with the dangers of beauty and like the rot beneath perfection. And I definitely think there's a place for that in literature. I think it's really interesting. It's just, that's not generally what appeals to me as like the average reader that's just interested in a book. Like I think definitely I could enjoy talking about it and engaging with that. It's just, if I'm just gonna pick up a book to read, those aren't usually the kinds of themes that really appeal to me, which is often what you get with the fairy world. As well, like I said, I don't like romance as the central plot, especially when it comes with very explicit sex. It's just not my personal preference. I just feel slightly like, when reading it, like I've walked in on somebody else, I don't know. Yeah, and again, if you don't like the characters, it's also really hard to feel invested in a plot. So again, maybe I would like the characters in her new book, so that's kind of more of a side point. It's just like the fae aspect and the heavy romance aspect are two reasons why I personally don't think that I would enjoy her new book as much, especially because it's now adult, which means, as I theorized a few years ago when it was announced, Sarah moving into adult is really code for taking the kinds of books she already does and adding even more smut to them. So you that have read it can tell me if I'm right or wrong. But overall, I just felt like it just doesn't appeal to me, and that's, again, not to say that I think she's a bad author. Obviously, you've seen and listened to all my songs, you know that I really like Throne of Glass, and so, like, I think there's nothing wrong with enjoying her. It's just as she's sort of developed her own niche and really kind of grown into the author that she is, she has grown away from what I initially liked about her books. I just feel like, as a reader, I have not enjoyed as much the new direction or the direction she's established. Like, I don't think it's new. I think it was always kind of there, but she's moved in a way that is further away from the things in her books that I liked initially. All that to say, I have kind of been leaning towards not reading her new book, but I wanted to make this video to explain because a lot of you are expecting songs from it, and also to kind of ask you, like, I mean, you guys know me, you know my interests, so do you think that I would like it? Those of you that have read it, I'm just curious to know, like, what are some things that you really enjoyed about this new book? And is it as I've kind of assumed, that it's more of the same fae romance stuff? Or yeah, just tell me about your experience reading it in the comments, and if you think that I might enjoy it, because I do have this like kind of long-lasting relationship with her books in that sense, because I discovered them when I was so young, and it's been like, what, 10 years now? The Throne of Glass series was such a part of my teen years that I definitely could see myself enjoying it, and like her writing style does work for me. But in general, I just felt like maybe the new direction or the maybe plot and characters would just be less appealing to me. I feel like I'm rambling now, but yeah, anyways. I decided that I would not read it and kind of maybe move on a little bit from her books, not because I think they're bad or because I've like outgrown them, although that's valid too, just more because she's moved in a direction that doesn't appeal as much to me as her earlier books. So yeah, please do let me know in the comments if you think that I might actually enjoy this series, and tell me what you enjoyed about the book. I would love to hear your thoughts. But all that to say, if I don't make songs or videos about her new series, this is why. This is my explanation, my farewell to Sarah J. Maas on this channel. Not entirely, I still have a few Throne of Glass songs planned, but yeah, I'm kind of moving away from her books just because of personal interest, really. That is all I have for this video. I hope that you stay safe during this time, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.